Are you hot? No, I'm not talking about the summer weather. In this video, I'm talking about sex appeal. And I know you've probably heard that sex appeal is one of those things, you either have it or you don't. But as a dating coach for over 20 years, I'm here to tell you that you can dramatically improve your sex appeal, and it's not even that hard to do. Ready to get sexy? Let's do it. Remember about 10 seconds ago where I said that getting sexier isn't really that hard? Well, that's not entirely true. What I meant is it's not that difficult. It is a little bit hard, i.e. you have to put in the work, but it's not complicated. So I'm gonna give you the steps. If you're willing to put in the work, I guarantee you can make yourself sexier. Let's get into it. The first thing you can do to increase your sex appeal is probably the most obvious one, probably one you already knew, but I do have to put it first because it is such a magnifier, and that is you need to get in better shape. You do, okay? Lift some heavy weights, watch your caloric intake. It's gonna make a difference. If you have a better physique, you're gonna look better in clothes and you're gonna look a lot better out of clothes. And guess what? Females respond to that. So I have to tell you, get in better shape. And again, is it easy? No, it's hard. Is it difficult or complicated? No. There are plenty of routines you can follow that are absolutely proven to get you in better shape. What you gotta do is show up at the gym consistently, avoid injuries by being smart, and progressively lift a little bit more weight. If you do that, you will make yourself more sexy. However, that piece is only the start of maximizing the sexiness you can get out of your body. The other thing that I would highly recommend you work on that most people won't talk to you about is improving the way you move. I remember a few years back, I was teaching a student game and we were on the campus of a prestigious university, and I saw some of the male students at that university walking around, and I commented to my assistant coach, I'm like, he's never gonna get laid as long as he walks like that. Because if that particular person, one of the students, not my student, but one of the students at the university, walked up to a girl, she could tell from the way he walked, number one, that he was unconfident and things like that, but also that he had no coordination, no athleticism whatsoever. And you know what? Athleticism and coordination are things that would have helped our ancestors survive and reproduce on the savannas of Africa. Women are mentally hardwired to look for that, and if you don't move like an athlete to some extent, you're holding yourself back. So what do I recommend you can do? There's a few things. Number one, become an athlete. Play a sport. Not only will it get you in better shape and improve your physique, but it will improve the way you move. It will also improve you socially and do a lot of other things for you. So play a sport would be a great one, but if you're not down for playing a sport, I would say add some calisthenics or gymnastic exercises to what you're doing in the weight room, or possibly even take up yoga. Do a little bit of yoga to help your movement as opposed to only lifting heavy weights. Another one you could do for this would be take a dance class or two. And this has the added bonus of getting you around women as well. But learn to not only have a body that looks good, but a body that moves well. And that's gonna massively enhance the sex appeal that you have for women. So you'll notice as I was talking about physique and movement, I mentioned this idea that women respond to the things that would have helped men to survive and reproduce in our sort of evolutionary environment. When you think about what's attractive, what has sex appeal for women, I don't want you to think about what makes sense or what is useful in the modern age. I want you to think about what would have been useful back in the environment in which we evolved, because that is what women are hardwired for. So keep that in mind as I go through the rest of these elements of sex appeal. The next thing you can do to be sexier for women is be competent. What do I mean? I mean be good at shit. And if you are good at shit, figure out a way that women can see you being good at shit by accident. And this can be like holy shit amazing stuff. It can be little small things. It can be throwing a ball through the hoop in the NBA, which girls go crazy for. It can be being the person who steps up and kills a spider when she has a little emergency. It can be making $1 million. It can be being able to quickly untie a knot in a way that doesn't look too complicated. Now, obviously, some of those are more impressive than others, but the general idea that you are a competent person, the general idea that you can get shit done, the general idea that you're smart and able is a very, very attractive trait. And so if you are smart and able, let women see this. How can you do that? Well, number one would be in areas where you are competent, steer conversations in that direction and let women discover that. If you're good at playing an instrument, put that instrument in your living room. And don't go like serenade the girl with it, but let her ask about it and then you can begrudgingly play it for her and then be awesome, for example. So obviously, I'd encourage you to be good at things in life, both to attract women and also because just being good at things in life will help you be better at life and be more successful. But there are also a lot of little things out socially where you can be good and it will help you with women. If you're able to get into a club seamlessly and apparently with little effort, that makes you look really cool and competent. If you're able to get the bartender's attention and order a drink without getting all flustered and without waiting 10 minutes, that makes you look competent. If you're able to order at a French restaurant in French, that makes you look competent. There's plenty of little ways that you can display skill. Again, it's pretty obvious from evolution how a caveman who is good at shit like hunting and protecting and gathering food is a lot more valuable as a mate than one who's incompetent, right? So women do respond to competence. Now, you might not be competent at everything in life, and you might not always have the most golden opportunity to display your competence. So what else can you do? Well, if you act confident and or assertive, that implies a level of competence. This is because in a small tribal setting, if you were confident and assertive and you were full of shit, you'd get punched in the face. So being confident was something you could only do if you were competent. Nowadays, we don't live in a small tribal setting, and you can fake confidence to some extent. You can act confident even if you're not that competent, and women will pick up on that social cue and assume you're competent. The other thing you can do to convey competence, even if you're not competent or even if you don't have the best way to convey it directly, is to have someone else say that you're competent, have the internet say that you're competent, have your social media say that you're competent, or have your friends seem to like you as though you are competent. This generally falls under the category of social proof, and it's another way of conveying that you're good at something and well-liked, both of which are incredibly sexy to women. Another way to instantaneously appear more sexy to women is to conform with an archetype she has in her mind of what is sexy. You see, women have grown up knowing lots of people, seeing lots of things on TV, being told lots of different stories, and they have a mental model in their head for a certain type of guys that are high value. For example, the star quarterback at her high school was high value and sexy. For example, the rebel who rides a motorcycle and tells the teachers to fuck off was sexy in his way. The Wall Street tycoon who makes heaven and earth move with each trade is sexy and powerful in a way. The boxer who could beat up anybody is sexy and powerful. These are all different archetypes, and you're probably not all of them. However, you might have elements of one or the other of them, and to the extent that you do, if you can play up that archetype, you're going to get a lot more mileage out of the things you do have. So let's say you box a little bit just for fitness. Well, maybe you can come off as the fighter in the woman's eyes, and that'll make you look more sexy. Or let's say that you're moderately successful, but you can convey yourself as having your shit together in a business sense and being on an upward trajectory, and that's going to let her fit you into that successful corporate stereotype of those guys she knows that are high value to her. Let's say you happen to ride a motorcycle and have a job where you don't have to go to the office that much. Well, maybe invest in a leather jacket and grow your hair a little bit long and look a little bit more like you don't give a shit. That might just play up an archetype that's attractive to women. Now, you know yourself better than I do. You know the characteristics of your life. But if you can fit one of these attractive archetypes or another attractive archetype you know, by all means play into it. You see, when a woman first meets you, she doesn't know everything about you. So she's looking for shortcuts to figure out who you are. And if she has an easy shortcut that you fit an attractive archetype, she's going to put you in that archetype, which is going to help you from there on out. For my next tip, let's go back to appearance. We already talked about getting your body in shape and moving well, but your face and your hair and your clothing also matter tremendously. Put some effort into that. Spend the time and energy and a little bit of money to get a very good haircut. Once you've gotten it once, you can get it copied for cheaper later on, but get a very good haircut from a good stylist that suits your face and is trendy for the time. That's going to be really helpful. Do what you can for your complexion. If you have some acne, there are ways to clear that up. If you're super pasty, get a little bit of sun. Not so much you're going to get skin cancer or massive wrinkles, but get a little bit of sun so you look healthy. And style. Look around you, look at the guys who are successful with women, especially going back to archetype. If there's a particular archetype you fit, look at guys of that archetype that are doing well with women and dress like the guys you know are doing well. Be willing to invest a little bit in your clothing. If you have to buy one or two very expensive outfits, it doesn't have to be your entire wardrobe, but a few different things to make a great first impression. By the way, when I say expensive clothes, I don't mean you should blow your entire life savings on clothes. I mean, buy something that's maybe 3 or 4 times as much as you would normally spend to make sure that it's quality. One of the most attractive things you can be for a woman from an evolutionary context is healthy. And yes, we talked about your physique, which is a reflection of health. And we talked about your complexion, which is a reflection of health. But what I mean in this case is literally healthy, i.e. not being sick. I mean, being in a good mood, being happy, seeming to have energy. Most of human history, before we had antibiotics and good medicine, diseases wiped people out like crazy. If you seemed fairly immune to disease and fairly able to rebound when you got one, that was a huge marker of genetic proficiency. That was a huge marker that you would be a good father for children. So if you seem to be constantly complaining about being sick and having a headache and having a stomachache and being tired, you do not look healthy to a woman. If instead you seem to always be healthy and have a good energy and be well slept and be in a good mood, that's incredibly, incredibly attractive and sexy. So number one, take care of your health. Number two, fake it a little bit. If a girl asks how you doing, you have a bit of a stomachache, she's like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm having a good day. You don't have to tell her about every ache and pain, and it's very unattractive if you do. So a few minutes ago, I mentioned that competence, being good at shit, is very, very attractive. Another thing that goes along with that is self-sufficiency. Not having to ask for other people's help for stuff all the time, seeming to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Obviously, if you are competent, it's easier to stand on your own 2 feet. But there are plenty of competent people who ask for help all the time and who seem needy and seem to not be able to handle things on their own and are always looking to someone else to confirm before making a decision. If you seem self-sufficient, that is highly, highly attractive, both because that would have been a very attractive quality in our evolutionary environment, and also because the confidence to be that would have indicated past success, which is also, again, very attractive in our evolutionary environment. So as much as possible, stand on your own 2 feet, don't need other people for advice, especially on little things, right? If you're ordering at a restaurant, just order decisively and pick what you want. Don't ask the waiter and hem and haw and think about it and that kind of stuff. And don't ask the person next to you if their food is good. In front of the girl, just be decisive, be self-sufficient, be the guy who stands on his own 2 feet and trusts his own judgment. The next thing you can do to increase your sex appeal is one of the absolute biggest ones, and that is to learn to flirt. And obviously, yes, I'm going to say that because that's a lot of what this channel is about. But learning to flirt is a great way to demonstrate every other characteristic on this list. It's also a great way to be attractive even if you lack the other characteristics on this list. You see, learning to flirt is sexy to women on so many different levels all at the same time. Number one, flirting shows confidence. The fact that you're willing to be playful and break rapport shows confidence, which is an attractive trait. The fact that you know how to trigger a woman's emotions, i.e. flirt, conveys that you've had past success with women and that you know what you're doing with women, which is an attractive trait. It shows competence and shows social proof. But the other reason why flirting is so effective is that it actually signals something to the woman about your sexual value relative to hers. See, in conveying most of the other characteristics on this list, you're conveying your sort of generic sexual value relative to the world. Are you a successful person in life? Are you a successful archetype? Are you generally confident? And the girl can look at that and she can kind of attain a rough calibration of whether or not you seem to be on her level of sexual value. However, with flirting, because you are having a communication directly about you and the girl and about you and the girl's interaction, you are actually setting directly the association of I feel I'm higher value than you, or I feel you're chasing me, or I feel I'm chasing you. And so you can overtly decide that relative hierarchy in terms of who's being put on a pedestal, who's chasing. And when the girl sees you as higher sexual value than her, when the girl finds herself chasing you, that is incredibly attractive to her. And that's true both because she would typically only chase a high value person, and also by association, the people in the past she has chased were the people to whom she ascribed sexual appeal. As far as how to be better at flirting, I'm not going to go into that too much in this video because there are tons of other videos on my channel about it. But please, please, please learn to flirt. It is one of the absolute best shortcuts to sex appeal. The next thing you can do to increase your sex appeal is to be adventurous, spontaneous, fun, to have that sort of an attitude. And this is sexy for a couple different reasons. Number one, when you're adventurous, spontaneous, and fun, the girl feeds off that, and that makes her be more adventurous, more spontaneous, more fun. And adventurous, spontaneous, and fun are the type of mood the girl wants to be in when she's thinking about having sex with someone for the first time. She doesn't want to be in a very logical, contemplative, strategic mood during that sort of an encounter, right? If the girl's feeling strategic and deep in thought while on a date with you, it's very unlikely that you're taking her home that night and something sexual is happening. So being in that good state of mind that actually feels sexy to be in lets the girl follow you into that sexy feeling place and allows her to experience that as well. However, even beyond that, being adventurous and fun and spontaneous is in a sense taking a risk. And anytime you convey that you take risks, you're conveying from an evolutionary standpoint that you've taken risks and survived. Remember, we evolved in a very dangerous world as compared to the world we're in now. Now we can take tons of risks and survive no problem. Back in that time period, a broken leg could end your life, for example. So taking risks was highly, highly, highly dangerous. And if you could take those risks and survive, it showed that not only you could survive, you could like ultra survive. You could survive in spite of being stupid, so to speak. And so it was a very, very attractive trait. It's like attractive, attractive, attractive until it gets you killed kind of a trait, to be fair. But taking big risks is a very attractive trait if you show that you've taken those risks and survived. So being spontaneous and fun also conveys that. Another huge thing you can do to increase your sex appeal is to be a leader, or at least be perceived as a leader. So if on the date you are decisive, in charge, taking the lead, the girl's going to assume that you're comfortable taking the lead and that when you've led in the past, people have followed. Even more so than on the date, if the girl actually sees you leading people, if she sees you being a leader at work, or sees you making decisions and other people following, that is a huge amount of social proof. And also it conveys that survivable quality of, self-sufficiency, which we talked about in a very clear way. So being willing to lead and competent at leading is a huge boost to your sex appeal. The final trait that I'm gonna bring up is super obvious once you hear it, but it's something almost nobody thinks about, which is being comfortable with sex and being comfortable with nudity. If you are comfortable with your own body and comfortable with the idea of sex, that is very sexy. If you're uncomfortable with that, that is very unsexy. I know growing up, I had sort of like acne on my chest and back, and I was very shy about taking my shirt off. Much more so than I even needed to be with what I had. And I actually lost opportunities with girls because I didn't want to go swimming with them, or I didn't want to take my shirt off, or I was shy about my physical body. And it definitely made me appear unattractive. Also, when I was first learning game, I was very uncomfortable bringing up sexual topics because I was afraid of offending girls, I was afraid it would be risky. When you're comfortable taking off your clothes, when you're comfortable showing your body, when you're comfortable talking about sex, it conveys that you are comfortable and have had sex before. It conveys that you have had women into you before. It conveys that you are healthy. It conveys self-confidence. It conveys so many good things. But so many guys are body shy. And I know, look, you might not have the perfect body. You might be a little overweight. You might have some acne. You might be pale and pasty. It doesn't matter. No matter what you are, you're better off being confident as you are than unconfident as you are. Obviously, I mentioned all those other things. Get in shape, move better, get a tan, all those kind of things, take care of your complexion. Do the things you can, but at any given moment, be confident with what you have. Be confident with your body, be confident about sex. And be okay to talk about sex, be okay to bring up sex in the conversation. If you can't talk about sex, you're probably not gonna have a lot of sex. So those are the things you can do to increase your sex appeal. As I mentioned, some of them are not easy to implement. They may be hard, but they're not difficult. There's nothing complicated on this list. Some of it requires work. Some of it just requires a little bit of just deciding to do it. All of these are within your reach, and all of them will make you dramatically more sexy. So start doing them right now. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the tips. I have a little experiment for you. I want you to go in the comments and rate your current view of your own sex appeal below. And then maybe come back to this in 3 to 6 months, implement these, and let me know what your view on your sex appeal is then. Hopefully we'll see some higher numbers. In any case, let me know your thoughts. Glad you were here. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.